Hi everyone, welcome to this, I don't know, I used to call this the Squat Cast, let's call it the Heresy Cast. The new Heresy preview for the next edition of the game has dropped. There's been an hour-long preview video. I watched it. I've got thoughts, so if you haven't seen it or you have seen it, I'll just run through all the things that were released and what they kind of mean for the game of Heresy. Okay, so the Dropsite Preview is here. They did it for an hour. Loads of stuff was shown off. I've got thoughts, partly because Heresy's been my main game for ages now. I've been playing the Horus Heresy, the game, since it was released in 2012. It's kind of been my main big Warhammer game to play since then. When the second edition was released, we did a Tale of Four Gamers on it, and even though we've moved on to other games with Tale of Four Gamers, we've still been playing Heresy the most. I've been to multiple events a year, almost every year, to play my armies. I've built lots of armies, and yeah, I really like it as a game and as a setting. I've also made like loads and loads of videos about it. So what's been announced in the Dropsite Massacre, the Dropsite Preview about the new edition of the game affects me, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. So I'll just go through what's been announced, what they've released, what it all means. So the first thing is that, as everyone saw in the dodgy leaks, the Saturnine box will be the next box for Age of Darkness for the game. And it's going to be, it seems like it's generally themed around the early Heresy, or like we're still set in the middle of the Heresy. I think a few people had thought that maybe this game would suddenly jump to the Siege of Terror or something. But what's nice is this box seems to be full of models that evoke the most old forms of war gear the Imperium has. There's a new cinematic, which is the first time we've seen Constantin, Valdor and Malcador, I think, in one of these animations, which is quite nice, where you see everyone using all their cool new weapons. But all the stuff in the box is like ancient marks rather than brand new stuff invented in the Heresy, which is what the last box was. So what we get here in this new box, I'm sure you've all seen the leaks, but if you haven't, this is what we're going to get. The Saturnine box will contain 40 Mark II Crusade armor Marines. Mark II armor have mostly been like removed by this point, so these are people in their oldest armor, with disintegrator rifles and heavy disintegrators. We haven't seen these much. They're a new sort of weapon-ish for the Heresy. Adrathic weapons are kind of similar, which Custodes have. But disintegrator rifles are the weapons that the very first Space Marine had, the LE2 Space Marine, which is still available as like the Imperial Space Marine. So they're meant to be this ancient sort of weaponry, and you can give them to veteran squads in this. The box contains 40 Mark II Marines that obviously can be assembled in loads of different ways, with 20 disintegrators and a load of heavy and options. There's apparently about 28 disintegrator weapons in the box. There's also then what they're calling a Legion Centurion for Mark II armor. Obviously, this model could also be used as a Praetor, and Centurions are often upgraded to consuls. So, you know, it can count as a few different things. We'll call it a character model. And then, of course, there's the thing everyone's been talking about. There are 6 Saturnine Terminators, a Saturnine Dreadnought, and a Saturnine Praetor. So this is the big release, the big thing everyone was expecting. For me, it's a bit of a weird choice. That the actual big lore change here is that they've confirmed that this stuff, the big shouldered, eggy sort of Terminators, are now called Saturnine, which they weren't before. It was like a fan meme that they decided it was Saturnine Terminator armor. The only mention of Saturnine before this said that they weren't very different to Indomitus armor, which is normal Terminators. Basically, all this is now Saturnine. Saturnine's out, and their lore justification's quite neat. What they say is Saturnine was very old Terminator armor, very heavy and very difficult to make. It fell out of favour when Cataphracti came out, and then Vulcan, just before the Heresy kicked off, Vulcan re-looked at it, re-engineered it, and re-released it as a better mark just before the Heresy kicked off. And that included this Dreadnought, which has never been seen before. So these are all the new models in the box. And I quite like them. Oh, hold on, there's one more. There's a gun platform. This is essentially a very, very large tarantula style thing, which ties in nicely actually, because they're just about to release the tarantulas. They've been previewed. This is the box. I think, to be honest, I think all the models in this are quite good. The last Age of Darkness box was a really good deal. This is pretty comparable to that. The last one had like a tank in it, which this one doesn't. So it's a bit fewer models, but they're all quite good. They're all quite nice. The only one that I think is a bit weird is the Saturnine Praetor, who is, for me, a little big, just a little too big, and also has a kind of a weird pose. He almost looks a bit too flexible. So yeah, I think that's the only model I'm like not that keen on. Everything else looks good. I like the Saturnine Terminators. I think I really like their use of these like old plasma guns. I think that's a really good choice. They look like Rogue Trader plasma guns. However, I also think the models actually look better with a fist than a gun. So that's good. I don't know. That maybe I'll do that. One thing I do quite like is that they've justified the big shoulders by giving them these like shield generator things, which justifies why they've got such big shoulders to make them very protected. Yeah, that's all really good. So that's your model releases. That's what we're going to get in this box. They also gave us a few previews right at the end though. So there are some other models. The big thing is plastic Fellblade. If you didn't know, Fellblades are basically Space Marine Baneblades, which have been a resin model since really early on in Mark 1 of the Heresy game. So they're going to get a plastic Fellblade. That's good. We all wanted that. They've also shown off some Mark II Assault Marines with very old-fashioned jump packs, which everyone likes. And the thing everyone has been waiting for forever, Mark III Breachers. Breachers have actually been around since Bad Ab, which was actually years before the Horus Heresy range and game started. They're Marines equipped for boarding other spaceships with these big shields. They're very iconic. Everyone really likes them, and we've been waiting for plastic ones for years, so that's all very good. They also showed this thing, which is potentially some sort of Mechanicum thing. I think this is going to be Skitarii. At the moment in Heresy, there are no Skitarii in the Mechanicum lists, and that's because in the lore, Skitarii aren't ubiquitous yet. What they are is a very specific thing. They're the pilgrim travelers that escort like ore convoys across the waste of Mars. And so that's why Skitarii have metal legs. And so this preview, which seems to show a guy with a long rifle-y thing, metal legs, and a raggedy cloak, an ash waste nomad-y sort of cloak, would fit with the description of what Skitarii are. So I think it's that. Yeah, so that's the new models and their sort of slight change to lore justification. I quite like them. I think they're all really fun, but that's what we're going to get. The models are all coming, obviously, in the box set. And then the Fellblade, Assault Marines, Breachers are all scheduled for much later on. So we don't know when they're actually going to come. They're just like teasers, really. I like all that. Now, the big thing, unfortunately, is that the game news is a bit more varied. Heresy is an interesting one because it sort of attracts a player base who one of their main benefits of the game is that we don't have to keep up with it every month. You know, it's not 40k. It's not on a really fast release cycle. It doesn't get updated all the time. We get that's good because we don't get to play it as often, right? We don't want that sort of churn usually. And I think one of the things a lot of people were hoping for was that this would be an update, but not invalidate all the books and not be too different. Like, you know, fix the things, give us an update, a bit like Necromunda got, don't invalidate everything. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. So let's go through what we actually got told here. The bad points, start with the bad points. There are loads of really good points, but let's start with the bad ones. There's a load of rules changes. They're not little. It seems to be mostly the same game, but they're not small rules changes, and they require things like changing stats, which means all the books get invalidated and replaced. That's annoying because the books are big and expensive, and some of them haven't been out that long. I was getting campaign books, a whole load of books over there that are just kind of useless now, and that's hundreds of pounds of books, especially if you collect all the armies. So yeah, the rules changes are such that it needs new books, and it looks like the books are still massive. There's going to be new Libers for every army, new Liber Heresius and Liber Astartes, which is the Loyalist and Traitor books, and looks like new campaign books, which in this little preview looked a bit smaller. It looks like they're going to go down the, what is it, the Arcane Journal? Is it the old world model where you have army books that are quite big and hardback and contain lots of army lists, and then there's like little smaller books that just do one campaign and add a few units in. So that's good, but the fact that all the books are still massive and all need to be replaced is annoying. That's like feet of paper that just goes in the recycling now. On the other hand, the rules changes do look quite sensible. So the three big ones are, we're going to get conditions. Squads are going to get condition markers that can tell you whether they're like stunned or suppressed or active. This is something brought over from some of their smaller scale games. Epic and Legion Astartes both work like that, which might be an indicator of the way they want this to go. Heresy has always been the big game. To be honest, that's a common thing in lots of war games. It's probably worth it. It probably will simplify things. Things like, there are already basically conditions in the game. Pinned is a condition, broken is a condition. Having those formally defined with markers is probably sensible, but that's a nice simple rule change. The big ones are, of course, the stat changes. Weapons have some new stat lines that look quite different, but actually when you look at them aren't. What they've basically done here is folded in a lot of things that used to be a bunch of universal special rules and made them stats. So not only do the big thing is weapons have damage now, which to be honest was necessary. That didn't exist before. And then, things like unwieldy or reach, which were ways in which you had improved or reduced your initiative because you had certain weapons. Those have just been made an actual stat now that every weapon has, which is just, it's what your initiative is and plus or minus. Same with attacks. There were a few things that gave you extra attacks if you use them. That's just a stat now, nice and simple. Even the thing that used to say like assault 2, heavy 3, that is now heavy and assault are rules for the gun, and number of shots is a stat now. All of that seems all really, really sensible. From this little preview, it looks like AP is working the same. It's not shifting to the 40k modifier model. That all looks really sensible. The other big thing is that the stat line is changing. So where they're reintroducing the 4 different psychological stats. So instead of leadership, we're going to have leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. Those were old Rogue Trader things that actually have been reintroduced into Necromunda. So Necromunda's still running with these. The way it works is that leadership will determine whether you break or can be rallied. Your leadership will determine how well you take orders or can be rallied by leaders. Cool is your ability to not break. Willpower is like resistance of psychic manipulation, and intelligence is operating machinery and fixing things, and probably, if there's an action system, doing actions. They're probably, in Necromunda as well, they're probably not going to be used a lot. They're probably not going to be used as much as like strength or movement. But what it does help with is probably differentiating units. Heresy has this thing where obviously a lot of people are using Space Marines. A lot of them have the same profile. Being able to give some of your special units a really good cool factor, but maybe they're very independent, so they don't have a very good leadership factor, is really interesting. So that might help. I can see this being a useful thing. That's fine. So from what they've told us of the rules, it looks like the other stuff is the same. No one's mentioned any changes to vehicles. And blast markers are still included, so that's not changing. So it looks like it's broadly the same game with these changes. That's great. It's annoying for me that the changes are so big, they need new books. That's annoying. All these books are listed as being available on release day, except for Talons of the Emperor, which are going to get a PDF until their book comes out. And of course, the big question is what happens to the previous PDF-only armies. We had militia and we had demons as PDF-only armies. What's going to happen to them? Also, I just built my Dark Mechanicum force based on last year's Mechanicum book. I know that now the previous Mechanicum Liber had Mechanicum, Knights and Titans in it. And what they're doing with the Libers now is there's a Mechanicum one and there's a Knights and Titans one. So I am hoping that the Dark Mechanicum stuff is in the Mechanicum book. Otherwise, my army's a bit pointless. That's recent enough that I hope they'll include it. there are other questions here, like some of the old campaign books include all the things like Legion-specific Solar Auxilia units. Are they included in the new Auxilia Codex? It's a whole Auxilia book rather than Talons the Emperor 2, so maybe what's happening to militia? There's a load of questions there. In the first edition of Heresy, Auxilia and militia were on the same book, so that could be a thing. The big question, of course, is what this will do. So that's all the releases. The big question is what this will actually do to the game. I think, to be honest, given that there will be a load of grumbling about this, no one wants to rebuy all the books again. The fact they're all available on release is good, but also bad. If you play lots of different armies, you have to buy all these things. I think there'll be a lot of grumbling in the existing Heresy community about this. But then for Heresy, the buy-in is very big anyway. I don't think you'll lose many people from Heresy because of this, given how much an army costs and given how much time and attention people lavish on their armies in Heresy. I think most people will go, okay, it's another 150 quid of books. I'll just do it. That is annoying. Doing it every 3 years, though, is a bit of a nightmare. I wonder if they might start selling fewer books because people decide, for this 3 years, I'm going to play Mechanicum and I'm just not going to buy all the rest of the books. And then next time when the next edition inevitably comes out, I'll play a different version. If it is going to be a 3-year cycle, which it looks like it is, maybe people will be buying less of the books and deciding to stick with an army for a certain amount of time. Yeah, I think it's also a weird choice because that sort of decision isn't going to really help with the rules stealing sites, right? If they've already got sites out there that upload all the rules to the internet, that's going to happen more because there's way more of an impetus to do that. So I don't know. I also think it's going to be difficult to, now people know that that's the case, that these massive expensive books get re-updated, get trashed every 3 years. I think that will slow uptake. That might be a damaging thing. I don't know. It's a really popular game. I think there's rumors that it's like the third most popular game after Age of Sigmar and 40k. So I think it's all fine, but I don't know if that's going to be a bit of a break on it or if the sort of impetus of a new edition will see it through. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. The models look great. The release box is great. I don't know when it's going to come out. I would guess July, August is probably a sensible time for that, which means we're still a way away. Obviously, this thing we just watched was popped up quite soon after the leaks, which implies that actually maybe they weren't going to announce this for a few more weeks and then suddenly we got this preview. It might be a while till they're out, but I don't know. It looks like there is a good plan. Obviously, there's loads more kits coming out. It's absolutely being supported loads and loads. That's great. It's getting new rules. The rules do look sensible. I think it's probably going to be a more sensible, they've learned the lessons from the last edition. The only downside is the fact that it requires a load of new books, and they're such huge books. I think that might be a bit of a dampener. However, I'm listening. I'm going to get the box. I am going to buy the books. They know we will, so we're all going to do it. And I look forward to playing it. I think it looks interesting, and the models look good. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. I've got my sights on a Dark Angels army a bit, and I've got even though I don't like Dark Angels, but I like the idea of, I don't know, it'd be fun. It's because I want to do Star Phantoms, really. I've also got my sights on taking my Marines errant and making them more Ultramarine, using those as an Ultramarine army. And I've also got this idea of doing some Thousand Suns. So maybe there'll be one of those three. The Mark IIs might find their way into my White Scars, but we'll see. I eagerly await it. I eagerly await spending another 150 quid on books. So yeah, mixed bag here. Nice preview, great experience, great show. The cinematics look great. There's also a Heresy Black Library, what's it called? Warhammer Plus animation coming out. But yeah, mixed bag on the rules there. Mixed bag on the way they're coming out. Anyway, that's basically what happened. Hopefully that's provided a bit of context. That's certainly what I think. Back to the lore videos. Thanks for watching. And if If you'd like to follow this series, well, like and subscribe and you'll probably get notifications, and check below for details of the Patreon, the YouTube membership scheme, the merch store, and of course, the second channel. See ya!